Hey there, welcome back to the Working Actor on Casting Workbook. I'm Natasha Gargiulo, and I am so excited for our guest today because if you are a fan of The Lincoln Lawyer, which is streaming now on Netflix, then you know that our next guest is Julian, and this season promises to have more action. But aside from Devon Graye, being a really successful actor who has been at it consistently for 20 successful years, and he joins us on The Working Actor to share all of his knowledge and insight on how to be your best at this craft. Thank you so much, Devon, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here too. Offline we were talking and I was saying I was going through your body of impressive work and I'm like, I know this guy, right? I've seen him before. And what I love about your talent is that you can take on a character, you can look differently, you can take on that character and act a different way, and you make it look very seamless and effortless, but I know it takes a lot of work. So out of all the characters that you've played, I'm just going to go run down them right now. Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix, Grey's Anatomy, Nope, directed by Jordan Peele, The Flash, American Horror Story, Dexter. What are some of your most memorable characters that you've played?
Oh man, I mean, first of all, thank you for that was very kind compliment. I mean, I think every actor we sort of strive to like disappear into the characters and kind of become the person, and it's fun to sort of be as different as possible. And it's been fun. Like in my career, I've got to play like the really bad guys. I've got to play like the really like nice, good people and people in between. So that's super fun, and it's always hard for me to pick. You know what's funny is actually the other day I was thinking about my favorite role I ever got to play, which is a pilot that we did for CBS in 2019 for it was called LA Confidential, based on the book. And I played, it was set in the 1950s, so it was this really fun 1950s call boy I played that was just sort of fabulous, and it felt like I got to be in like Singing in the Rain or something. Like it was like that kind of talking, and that, so that was like, so, and no one will ever see it because it was a pilot that didn't get picked up. But that is probably funny, and like funnily enough my favorite thing, which is something no one will ever see. But of the things you mentioned, probably American Horror Story is the one that I loved because it was like a demon possessed character. So like when you play that, there's no boundaries. It's sort of like you can do, and I remember Ryan Murphy telling me, he's like, you can literally do anything you want to do on this set. You just can't say this word and you can't say this word because of censors, but everything else you can do. And I was like, oh my God, okay, that's amazing. Like to have that freedom, especially get to go to the depravity of someone that is a demon, like that, getting to like do that. Like when else in life do you get to be that horrendous and get away
Right.
with it? So that was really fun. And it was with Jessica Lange, who I've loved forever. And I remember being very intimidated, but I kept having to say to myself, like, you have to be more powerful than her. Like she's the one that's like the nun trying to exorcise the demon, and the demon has to scare her. So like I have to scare Jessica Lange. Like how do I do that? Because she's so incredible and powerful herself. So it was sort of like my mission every day was to be like, how do I find within me the strength to be more powerful than this incredible actor that is actually way more powerful than me? So it was
Wow.
that stands out for sure.
Mother, where am I? I'm scared.
This is a hospital. Doctors are here to help you.
Jed.
Mein Bucks no stere salvo.
Jed needs to be immediately medicated.
Salvation.
No, doctor. That's not what this boy needs.
I mean, you've got such an amazing body of work, and you've been at this for over 20 years, and you only look like you're 24. So that means you
God.
probably started, yeah, you probably started just like right when you were a toddler. But I mean, did you start right away? Like, what's your earliest memory of going at this and making this your living?
Well, so I grew up in Northern California, and then when I was 12, my family moved to England, and so I lived in England for all of my high school years were there, and junior high years were there. And then when we moved back to America, I had no friends. We moved to this town, and I was like, okay, I'm not just going to sit around and like I was working at Starbucks, but I'm like, what do I want to do with my life? Like I was homeschooled my whole life. I felt kind of intimidated about going to college, so I was like, I'm going to become an actor. Like I've always wanted to be like I'm just going to see how I do that. And I got this book from the bookstore called Breaking into Acting for Dummies, which I highly recommend because I it was one of those like for dummies books, and I literally followed it like my Bible. Like I was like, okay, it says to do this. I'll go find someone to do headshots. I'll start taking acting classes. I'll, send out packages to all the agencies in Los Angeles. Um and now I was 18. I had just turned 18 and I did that. And so that was sort of, it was like this mission I was on to like do something with my life because I was in a new country and new city. And then it was sort of like funny as it started actually happening. I was like, oh, I actually just got an agent and I actually like now just got like the lead in this cool play in San Francisco. And so that was, yeah, it was kind of just it snowballed after that. And then, of course, as every actor I've had, or not every actor, but a lot of actors, I've had a lot of years where like the success goes away for a time and you just sort of sit there thinking like, I think it's over now. I think the career's done. I guess if there's no more work, and then work surprises you and comes back around at some point.
Do you remember the moment you got signed on with an agent and that feeling and what it was like?
Yeah. Oh man, it was, I mean, it was wild because I submitted probably 60 packages to agents in Los Angeles and only got a call from one place.
Wow.
And luckily that place decided to sign me. But I, yeah, I sort of thought like, I'll have lots of meetings. And then I was like, oh, no one, no one's calling. I have no experience professionally. And I had an agent in San Francisco for a time, which was an easier market to break into. But even with that, it was, I did like one voiceover job, but there's not a lot of work in San Francisco, to really make a living at it. It's harder there. So LA, I thought like, oh, I've already had an agent in San Francisco. I'm sure it's going to be easy. And then the one place called, and it was, yeah, but I fully remember driving in my little Toyota Corolla from Northern California to LA, and just I like rented a room from like some family my parents knew that lived out there, and I was like Harry Potter going up to the attic every night and like sleeping like in funny conditions, but I was like determined to like make this happen.
I love these stories, right? Because there are so many working actors who are tuning in and they're kind of like, oh, well, how did he make it? How did he make it in Hollywood? And how did he get on Grey's Anatomy and Lincoln Lawyer? But when you kind of, show the realness of it and kind of like the fact that there was a little bit of struggle and that you were driving in your little car, going from audition to audition, it helps motivate the actors out there. If you are just tuning into The Working Actor, we are talking to Devon Graye. Devon Graye is an accomplished actor. You can see him on The Lincoln Lawyer. He's also on Grey's Anatomy. He was with Jordan Peele for his amazing film Nope, and also on The Flash and so much more. We talked about working with Ryan Murphy. Tell me a little bit about your meeting with Jordan Peele. You must have been a little nervous.
Yeah, I mean that came about in such a funny way because I had done a movie that went to Sundance back in, I want to say 2016, 2015. And it was this movie I'm really proud of called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore that Macon Blair wrote and directed. He's this amazing actor, writer, director. He can do everything. And I got cast in this role in that I loved. It was like a character I really wanted to play. And then 5 or 6 years after that, I got an audition for Nope. And obviously it was super secretive. They only released like 3 pages to me. And I knew it was Jordan Peele. And then after the day after I made my tape for that, I got a call early the next morning saying like, "Hey, Jordan Peele wants to get on Zoom with you tomorrow. He's sending you the full script, read the script, and then get on Zoom with him." And I was like, "Oh my God, like, whoa, okay." Like I was not expecting that at all. And because, we make so many tapes.
Right.
Yeah. So
So you're going to have now a Zoom call with Jordan Peele.
yeah.
What's your night like before the call? How are you preparing for this call?
I mean, honestly, it was just reading the script because the script was really long, and it was also in a funny format. Like it's like a format that like explodes basically after you like read it. Like it was like that crazy encrypted like you have 10 hours to look at this and then it's going to explode, and it was all protected. Like you couldn't obviously take pictures of it or like it was or screenshots of it. So
Amazing.
yeah, so I was like trying to read it before this thing expires, and and obviously it was amazing. I was like, I can't believe I get to read like this Jordan Peele script before so many other people in the world get to see this. Um, and and it was weird. I didn't feel overly nervous because it wasn't an audition. I was like, okay, this is just a meeting. Like he just wants to talk to me. And that for some reason felt something about that felt more calm because I was like, yeah, we're artists. We're just going to sit down and talk like fellow artists together, even though he's incredible and has, yeah, beyond like anyone I'd ever met with. I like looked up to him in such a way. Um, but we got on there and instantly too, he was such a normal guy. He was so lovely, so like connective too. Like I didn't feel like sometimes I find if I meet people that are quite famous, there's like a wall you can't quite access. Like even like they're talking to you, you're like, are you really talking to me? Like, and he's not like that at all. He's like really just connects. And so it was a lovely meeting. And like pretty quickly into the meeting, he was like, hey, I want you to know that you have the part. Like you already have the role. He was like, I just wanted to kind of meet with you and gel with you. And he had seen me in that Sundance movie and he already had me in mind for the part. And so he was like, I saw you in this movie and like I thought you were probably the right guy. I still wanted to see you read, but you won me over with the read. And so it was also kind of crazy. And I always say this to actors, like you never know what a job is going to do that, or even just an audition you do years before, how it can come back around and bring more work. Because I did that Sundance movie thinking like it's going to change my career. Like I'm at Sundance and and then it was like crickets for years and years after that. Like I didn't get another job for a long time. I sort of was like, oh, that came and went, didn't turn into anything. And then lo and behold, like Jordan Peele saw it and thought of me all these years later. So it is kind of a cool, I do think it's encouraging to remember that like nothing's wasted. Like as long as we're doing work we're proud of and you just don't know. You don't know where it's going to lead.
You see that cloud?
Man, who you with?
Oh, I'm sorry. Who are you?
Nobody.
You don't look like a nobody to me.
Yeah, look, we doing a camera test for a Verizon commercial, so, I'm gonna need you to clear the road.
This whole valley comes up as blurry on Google Maps. You're really tucked away back here.
Jupiter's claim? Quick if you go the other way around.
Yeah. Actually, what did happen with Jude Park and all those people? He was basically your neighbor, right? So what, they vanished? You don't believe the flood narrative, do you? What's the matter? Don't you want to be on TV?
Can you tell us a little bit about your time on set? Like how many days were you on set for Nope and you just working with the other actors?
I think I was there a total of 6 days maybe on that. And the kind of cool thing was the first day that I got to set, there was like, it was during COVID. So there was like a COVID scare and they're like, we can't film anything today because someone has COVID. So we're just going to hang out. You can kind of like get used to, because I'm on a motorcycle in the movie. They can get used to like being on the motorcycle. And I don't actually ever drive the motorcycle because I could never. But like they wanted to get used to me sitting on it and the helmet and the whole thing I wear. The cool thing was Jordan Peele was like, hey, he's like, we just have all day to kind of hang out. Like, do you want to come back to the trailer and you can watch all that I filmed already in the movie and see all the different dailies and see what we've cut together? And I was like, oh my God, yes, please. And so I just went back to his trailer and sat there for like several hours watching. And he would like sit there next to me watching me watch it. And be like, that's cool. Like, does that work? And I'd be like, oh my God, why are you asking me? Like, of course it works. Like, it's amazing. So that was just, it was very special. It was very surreal. And also as a screenwriter, he was like, he knew I was a screenwriter too. He's like, I know you're a screenwriter. He was like, let's talk about screenwriting and kind of geek out together. And so he gave me like amazing advice when it came to sort of my writing career as well. And then filming was such a big budget movie, which I'd never done before. So that was, the sort of the scale of something like that is that like you can spend 7 hours just filming someone's hand, like reaching for something because they have all this time, they have all this money. And I'm used to doing indie films where you have like 17 pages in a day you have to try to get. So it was kind of amazing to be like, oh, wow, we have nothing but time to just kind of like make these shots look as beautiful and perfect as possible. And the other actors were great. Kiki Palmer, I really loved her. Like she, and we had a bunch of mutual friends before, so we just got to kind of chat and hang out in between takes. And they built that house from the movie like out in the middle of the desert. Like they built the whole thing just for the movie. And it was like I still geek out on sets because I still remember being a little kid and desperately wanting to be on a film set. And I still feel that way when I see kind of the magic of how it all works.
You know, you have been in some of the biggest series, or we're going to talk about Lincoln Lawyer soon because that's the one that is streaming on Netflix that everybody loves. But before Lincoln Lawyer, there is a drama that is on ABC that has had such a long run and it's still going strong, Grey's Anatomy. I am a huge Dreamy and McSteamy fan. Tell me when you got cast for Grey's Anatomy, what was that process like? And what was that whole, I guess, experience like when you got the script in your hands?
That was such a like bucket list thing because I love that show. When
Yeah.
I first moved to LA, like I literally remember when I lived in that little attic I was talking about, like I would get the DVDs of Grey's Anatomy. I think they would come in like I had a Netflix account where they would send you the actual DVDs back in the day, and I would be up in the attic watching Grey's Anatomy as I went to sleep, like dreaming of being an actor, just moved to LA, going to auditions, thinking how cool it would be to be on this show that I was loving. And then the show's been on for 20 years, and I finally in the 20th season got to do, and I had auditioned for it probably 6 or 7 times over the years, like always some kind of random part that I didn't get. And then while I was shooting Lincoln Lawyer this last spring, an audition came in for Grey's Anatomy, and it was like a self-tape that I got back from work one day on Lincoln Lawyer, and I like had like 2 hours to do it, and I just kind of quickly like threw it together and sent it off. And then when I found out that I got it, I also was scared because at first I wasn't going to be able to do Lincoln Lawyer and Grey's Anatomy. They were like, "Oh, you might, the schedule conflicts too much." But then both, it was amazing because both sides, the Lincoln Lawyer crew was incredible. They were like, "No, we want you to get to do this, so we're going to try to fix the schedule so you can go." And then Grey's Anatomy made sure I shot all my scenes in one day so I could do both. So it was like a lovely situation, and it genuinely was such a lovely set to be on. Like there was, for a show that's been on for 20 years, you kind of would expect there to be kind of a jaded, I don't know, like I didn't know what to expect. I just thought like, oh, this is maybe not going to be like the dream that I think it is. And then it was so lovely. Like Kevin, who is an actor on the show, also directed my episode, and he was a joy and so amazing to work with. And all the other cast members that are there, they just, everyone was just having a nice time. Like there was no weirdness, which sometimes you can get on a show that's been around for a long time.
It's okay. He knows I'm madly in love with him.
It better be. We just moved in together.
Yeah, I want to spend as much time together as we can in case
Don't go there.
So it's bad, right? I mean, you wouldn't come all the way out here to say hello.
Chronic rejection is causing your heart to fail. We need to put you back on the transplant list.
We should plant the tulips that you want and see the Space Needle. You've never done that. Should we get married? We should get married, right?
Brady.
No, you're right. That was a terrible proposal. I take it back. How long can I make it with this heart?
With medications, a few months. But Ian is right. Don't go there. We're gonna talk to UNOS. Don't lose hope.
Devon, though, I'm wondering, you know, with Grey's Anatomy, it's such a huge show, and you said that you auditioned for it about 7 to 8 times. Do you think the fact that you auditioned so many times, you were honestly like top of mind to them, and they kept on calling you back, or maybe because, you know, a lot of actors say that, oh, you know, sometimes I audition so many times and I never get it. And then this is kind of like a testament to show that you're always top of mind on casting directors, you know, minds because you kept on auditioning.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from the creative side of like the producers and showrunners, I would imagine they probably didn't remember that I'd ever auditioned, but casting directors definitely would have. And I'm sure that over the years, you know, I'm sure they keep track of like, oh yeah, we liked this person, they weren't right, but we'll keep kind of, when a role comes around, we'll keep bringing them back. And because that is a huge part, obviously, as actors, like casting directors are gatekeepers to so much, and like we have to, like, they are the people that take interest in us. And decide sort of if we're going to go to that next level, if we're going to get seen by the producers. And they're the big champions of actors, obviously. And so I think, yeah, I do feel like all the casting relationships I've made, they're the only reason I have a career is because of those, those relationships.
What is your approach like for when you audition or you work on something like Grey's Anatomy, which is one episode, as opposed to working on Lincoln Lawyer, which is several episodes, it's a series, you're a main character. How does your approach differ for both of those?
And my husband is an actor as well, and we were talking recently about how hard it is to come on to something for just one day or just a couple days because you're coming into this machine that's already moving. You have to kind of fit effortlessly into it. Oftentimes, you're not really like on Grey's Anatomy, I was treated amazing, but oftentimes you're not talked to by anybody else. You kind of just arrive and sit there and people say hi, but there. I've done many guest stars on shows where I get there and like none of the series regulars say hi or talk. Like there's just kind of this divide or, it's a job for them at this point too. So they're just sort of over it and they're always having guest actors come in. And so to do that, to do the job as a guest actor and bring 1,000%, even if you feel like you're not kind of level with everybody else, to still like own that and be like, I'm gonna still like make space for me to like be what I need to be to do the good acting. I find that's hard because the nerves, especially on like the first day of any job, the nerves are kind of hard. Like I'll often see like even Lincoln Lawyer, like I'll recognize like, oh, this was my first day because I can see I'm withheld a little bit. Like I'm like not quite as bold as I maybe should be. So if you have one day only, like that to fight through that feeling of wanting to be withheld and not bring the bigness of and confidence that we often need to have is much harder. And so I think that's what I would say is the big difference is that like you have to just kind of fake it till you make it more if you only have one day or a couple days on something. Because otherwise, by the end of Lincoln Lawyer, like it was so relaxed. I felt like I could try a million different things in a scene and there's no judgment. Everyone already knows, like they're happy with the work that's been going on. On the first day, you kind of think like, God, if I do this crazy thing in this take, like they're going to think like, why did we hire this insane actor? Like, there's just a lot more walls you have to get through, I think, if you only have one day.
So we're talking about crazy things. Did you ever think in your entire acting career that you would be wrestling with John Cena?
Oh my God.
You want me to teach you how to wrestle?
Yes, I would love it if you teach me to wrestle.
Oh man. And I was just thinking about that movie. Legendary. Yeah, that was no, I did not think that. And I actually like this was before John Cena had a big film career. He was just sort of known as the wrestler, and I didn't know anything about wrestling. I didn't know who John Cena was. So I did that movie not really knowing anything about him, although I really liked him as a person. But we played brothers, and it was like this crazy, he's total polar opposite of me. I'm this like small, like skinny guy, and he's John Cena. And no, but that movie was a really fun experience because it was the first time I was ever like the lead of a movie. And it was a huge responsibility. It was 2 months of shooting in Louisiana. And Patricia Clarkson played my mom. Danny Glover played my mentor. It was this like lovely cast. Madeline Martin, who's amazing, still one of my closest friends. She played my love interest, and it was just this amazing group of actors. And then John was super lovely, and it was I think only his like second or third acting job, so he was actually quite nervous, which is so funny to think about now, because he's the superstar now. But at the time, he was nervous. He had like an acting coach on set and was constantly like just hoping that he was doing good work. And yeah, and I remember he like took us all out to dinner one night and like paid for it all and showed up in like a suit, like looking so professional. Like he just was like a really lovely. I haven't talked to him in years, but I really had a good experience doing that.
But he, as a newbie to the industry of acting, had the same securities that you probably had when you just started off acting, right?
Oh, totally, 100%. Like exactly. Like, and it's funny. I remember I did an episode of Bones with Caesar Milan, I think is his name, the dog whisperer,
Yeah.
and he was guest starring in the episode of Bones with me as himself, as the dog whisperer. And I remember he was so nervous, and I was like, oh wow, like I remember feeling, I know this exact feeling he's going through, and I think it was similar with John. Was just that like I know that so well, and also like still have that sometimes, especially if it's been a beat that I've been on a set. I show up and the nerves get the better of you.
So how do you get through it? Because I know a lot of people are probably going to ask that in chat. They're going to be like, okay, so what are some tips that you can give us to be really great at memorizing your lines? Or when you forget them, where do you go?
I mean, I am really terrible with lines. I would say that's like my biggest weakness as an actor is that I like really struggle to remember them. And I have a good memory with other things in life, but like learning those words, it is so hard to get them in a place that I feel like effortless with them. So for me, I will spend like an insane amount of time just running the lines, running the lines, running the lines. I have like a little line learning app that's fantastic. It's called Line Learner and it's free and you can record all the other person's lines, your own lines, and then there's a different way that you can set it up each time to like rehearse it in a way that like can be helpful. And I will do that for probably like 7 or 8 hours total, like leading up the day before. Like I'll just be on it, on it, on. Like I'll be on a walk doing it. I'll be cooking in the kitchen. I'll just have it at all times, so that when I show up on set, I don't even have to think about like the lines are the last thing that I have to worry about. I remember when I did Dexter, and it was one of my first jobs. There was an episode where I stupidly, as like a young actor, was like, I don't really need to look at the like I'll know the lines, like I'll kind of look at it and it's fine. And then I like really messed up on the day and I continually couldn't, and I held up production. The director was getting frustrated with me and I was so embarrassed in front of all the crew that I just couldn't. It was horrible. And I think since then I've been like, I will never be in that position again. Like I want to like know these words inside and out because then you can be free. Then you can like make choices and not have like the lines are just right there, kind of like the lyrics of a song that you just kind of can just grab and then interpret differently every time. Like that's I think that makes for like the best kind of acting. And um but yeah, and sometimes I've done jobs where I get the lines like the night before and I don't have time, and that's really like hard. Like that's for most of my auditions nowadays, honestly, and some people will think this is probably me being a terrible actor. Like I will type them up on my computer. So I just have kind of like a teleprompt where I can like have them to like look at and grab from if I need to, because with self-tapes, we kind of can do that a lot of the time. And that makes me feel more free because otherwise I think I'd probably be really bad.
Yeah, no, but that's good advice. You mentioned Dexter, and you were the young Dexter, and now they are reprising that with a Dexter Original Sin. So, do you have any encouraging words for Patrick Gibson, who's going to take on the role?
God, no, he would probably. I wish I could go back in time and he could give me encouraging words because he's such a good actor, and I'm really happy that he is playing the part because he's so good. I remember on the OA thinking he was such a good actor, and he's perfect. Like he's gonna kill it, and I'm excited to see it too because Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy's in it, which is like the coolest thing ever that Buffy is going to be in Dexter. Um, and yeah, that was my first kind of big job ever was Dexter when I was 19, but I think I was playing him at 15. And I also just did not know what I was doing at all as an actor. Like I had taken like one acting class and every day on that set, I kind of just was like, I just felt like I was like failing all day. Like, oh God, I would leave every day going, God, I don't know. I think I ruined it. They're gonna fire me. This is so bad. Um, and and then looking back, I watched some of it recently for the first time in like probably like 15 years. And it's funny because there's certain scenes where I'm like, oh, I was so hard on myself that day, but like, I'm proud of this, or I'm proud of this part of it. Like not this part, but this, but like, so there's, I think it's a lesson too in that like we can beat ourselves up so much as actors. Like like you leave an audition, you're like, why? Oh my God, I'm the worst. Or you leave a day on set and agonize and replay that one take over and over that was so bad. And then oftentimes you look back years later, you're like, wow, I was not like I should have cut myself some slack. This is not the end of the world by any means.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Okay, let's talk about Lincoln Lawyer. This season revolves heavily around your character, Julian. So, what can we expect?
Oh man, I just started watching it because I hadn't seen any of it while, obviously while we're making it, I didn't see anything. So it just came out yesterday. And so I just was starting to watch some of the episodes. And it's been fun to see it all come together. And Julian is in jail for so much of the season.
Why didn't you tell him it was Glory Days?
Who?
The murder you're accused of. Giselle Dallinger. I knew her as Glory Days.
I've never heard that name before. When I met her, she said her name was Giselle.
And when was that?
About a year ago, another client of mine introduced us, Stacy.
Client? What do you mean, client?
Well, I'm like a manager for people in Giselle's line of work.
You're a pimp?
No, it's not like that. I'm a facilitator. My background is in coding. I run a very secure website, end-to-end encryption. My clients attract customers, and I verify them before they go on the date. Takes the danger out of it.
Does it?
Well, I know it's not the most respectable way to make a living, but I've never forced anybody into anything. I only work with people who are doing this already. I just help them do it more safely. At least I thought I did.
And how much do you take off the top for this service?
20%. A lot better than the average pimp, I imagine.
This is Stacy, who introduced you to Glory Days. I need to talk to her.
Okay. My partner David can get you her information.
Partner?
Life, not business. No, David never wanted any part of it. He begged me to stop. This was supposed to be my last year, and then I would have enough to get out and...
So, the night Glory Days died, tell me what happened.
Okay, look, I was at her place that night. I don't think anybody saw me, but I was there.
Why?
She owed me money. Well, no, it's not what you think. Do I look like a guy who beats up women?
Looks can be deceiving, Julia.
Well, I didn't do that, okay? I don't do that.
The hard thing about that job, and even watching it recently, like yesterday, I was remembering how hard it is when you have to play circumstances that have never thankfully happened at all in my life. Like, I don't know what it's like to be living in jail for 9 years. Like, how could I know? How could I actually, other than like researching, like I would listen to a lot of audiobooks on people that were wrongfully incarcerated or rightfully incarcerated for periods of time, like what their experience was. But even with that, you can't quite, like I remember every day on Lincoln Lawyer, I was like, I'm not feeling this the way I want to feel this because I can't. It's impossible to really, like, it just, you kind of have to fake certain things and hope that it's reading and playing, because, and so much of Lincoln Lawyer is a courtroom drama too. So you're sitting in the courtroom having to react to these things that are being said as the defendant and looking at the jury. And one thing that's super funny about Lincoln Lawyer is that I would have nightmares while we were filming it, which has never happened before for me, but I would have nightmares that I actually was on trial for something. And I would like think, like it would, like the boundaries of reality and the fiction of the story would kind of play on my mind in this way where I would wake up thinking, whoa, I really just dreamed that like that was happening to me. And like the jury, I was like depending on them with my life to like, please think I'm innocent and please get me off for this murder. Yeah, so that was because I think, yeah, you sit somewhere enough time and kind of hear that. And a lot of the courtroom scenes, I'm not talking, I'm just sort of sitting there, that part of the subconscious was like, oh, you're really in trouble. Like this is really happening.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a great story. You've given us so much amazing behind the scenes stories that I love. I think this interview is going to be very impactful for all the actors who are tuning in. You said you just started watching this series. What is it like to see yourself in a series or up on the big screen? What's that feeling like? And are you critical of yourself?
Yeah, super critical. Like I would say the big sort of secret, not that it's a secret, but the thing that I found, like anytime I've gone to a premiere, like the movie that was at Sundance that year, I had seen nothing of it. I went to Sundance, watched it for the first time in the cinema with like thousands of people. And when my character came on screen for the first time, I wanted to die. I was like, oh my God, like this movie has been so good. And now I'm there and I've ruined the whole movie. Oh my God, like what am I? Oh no. This is so, and it was the feeling you're watching it with all the other people. And then we went to the after party afterwards. And I just thought like, oh, I mean, this is some narcissism here because I was just like, God, everyone must be scared to talk to me because I'm so bad. They don't know what to say to me. Like, oh God, like just playing this thing. And then ultimately the movie's not bad, but it was, and my performance is not bad, but the movie's amazing. But I thought like seeing it with all the people. So what I find now is that if I can watch it by myself the first time, all of that feeling can happen, and then I can be like, okay, Devon, you're being crazy. Like, watch it, you watch it again. It's not because it's that scary thing of seeing ourselves, and we know ourselves so well too. So we know when we're faking, we know when it's not like it just it's hard where with Lincoln Lawyer, it's been nice. I've just been like watching it on my laptop, like watching the episodes, and if there's a scene or a moment I don't like, I'm like, okay, I'll just move past that. And like no one else is watching it with me, so I'm not feeling that same kind of dread that can happen. But I do think it's important for actors to watch themselves though. And I know a lot of actors will say like, "Oh, I never watch anything I'm in. I don't watch it." And that's great, but like I learn a lot from watching myself. Like even with Lincoln Lawyer, like there was scenes or moments where I'm like, "Oh, I don't like how I did that. Like I don't like the way that I like reacted in this moment. Like that didn't read well. Like I need to remember next time I have a scene like this to kind of play, or I need to do more homework before to know how to react because that didn't read properly." And I think that I learn a lot through watching myself, where even though it can be a painful experience.
Oh my goodness, we've learned so much from this interview with you. Do you have any words of encouragement right now for anyone listening? Maybe things that you know now that you didn't know when you first started off in this industry, and something like to motivate the ones who are still at it, auditioning all the time, not getting the callbacks, and still pursuing this.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is gosh, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to give advice too because I'm like, God, I still have like stretches of years where like I'm not working, and I'm just like, I hope that I made the right choice with my life doing this career. And I think it is just so much about the passion of this art form and remembering that the business side is always going to be hard and awful. Like it's not that never goes away. Like even if you're at the top of your game, winning an Oscar, like you hear those stories of the Oscar winners that then can't get arrested for the next year, and like it does happen, and the business is awful. And I think the thing I have to remind myself always is like the business is tough and not fun, and it treats us terribly a lot of the time. But the art form itself, like no one can take that away from me. And that the joy I have in that, and like tapping back in and just remembering like I'm doing it because I love the art form. And sometimes I get paid for the art form, sometimes I don't, but letting that be like tapping back into that always, and going back to the basics of what got us excited about acting, not being famous or not being a movie star, not being seeing ourselves on TV, but just like the actual art form itself. That's the thing I think that can make us feel fulfilled and happy. And then the acting business is crazy. Like there's no rhyme or reason to why people get jobs and don't. Like and now that I'm on the other side of it as a writer, I watch auditions from actors, and there'll be 1,000 brilliant actors, but they're just not the person. They're not the right, so you're like, God, like I want those actors to know it's not because of their talent. They're incredible. I just have to find the person that fits right in this role. And sometimes that person's not even the most brilliant actor, but they have the essence you're looking for. So that, yeah, I would just say like remember why you're doing it, and the business is the crazy business, and it's going to hurt us, and that, that's just what it is. I hope that kind of sounds like nihilistic, but that I think the hopeful part is that like acting itself is this beautiful thing that we get to do, regardless of if we can find a career in it or not.
You can watch the clock all you want, but it won't go any faster. You're Barry Allen, right? Henry Allen's kid? I'm
Axel Walker. You and your dad kidnapped my dad once.
Yeah, right. Pudding? Lunch lady gave me extra. I think she has a crush on me. Hey, word on the block is you carved up some professor. He give you a bad grade or something?
I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, sure. Everyone's innocent in here. Especially that guy. Yeah, Big Sir. He's really innocent. Oh, this is grosser than usual. Does pudding go bad?
Axel, what do you want from me?
To be murder buds. We could share trade secrets. I'd love to hear how you carved up that college quack.
I don't need any friends in here.
Let's talk about your writing. You wrote the screenplay for the 2019 horror film I See You, which starred Helen Hunt. And you also worked as a writer on The Girlfriend Experience. That's just to name a few. Is that where you see your career going? Because I know you've done so great with acting, but do you which one are you more passionate about at this point in your career?
I mean, I honestly hope to always do both because I do think both things make me better at the other. So, um, I would love to kind of act forever as long as people want to give me jobs. The writing I love just because that's something I can do on my own whenever I want. Like acting, so much of the time you have to wait for someone to give you permission, and whether it's an audition comes in or you get a job. Where writing, I can just sit and do that anytime. No one can take that away from me. No one sort of governs that. Obviously, to get paid for it, I have to get a job, but the passion and the excitement of actually writing, I can do anytime. And yeah, so I hope to do both. I really love writing, and I feel like in the last several years, my writing career has kind of taken over in the forefront, just in terms of like that's how I make most of my living is through writing. And the funny thing also about writing is that I do so many jobs that no one will ever know about because like 2% of the things that writers write in Hollywood actually get made. Like the rest of the time they fall apart at some stage. And I'm getting paid throughout, but there's nothing to really show for it, which I also think is a good exercise for just as a human being. Like when you're an actor, you sort of can get all these accolades because people see it, and like you can sort of build yourself up in this way that it feels nice, but also can be ultimately kind of dangerous if all your value comes from this external place. Whereas a writer, like oftentimes no one cares about the writer, and like no one knows who the writer is. The writer's very disposable. They get replaced all the time on things. No one really looks to see who the writer is oftentimes. So I do find that there is something nice about writing getting to be like my kind of secret little thing that doesn't take over in the way that acting can.
Did you ever consider starring in one of your own screenplays?
Yeah, it's funny when I write, I often forget that I forget that there's the actor side to me, so I don't even consider it often when I'm writing. Or I will literally think like, oh, I could play this part, but someone much better will probably play it. Like that's what I think sometimes. Like I'll think like, oh no, they'll find someone even cooler. But yeah, I mean, at some point I would like to. There was a little part in ICU that I was going to maybe play. But then I think I had a conflict with when they were shooting it, and I wasn't, and I kind of just told the producer, like, no, find somebody else to play that part. But yeah, it would be fun. I think I would be scared to do that. Like, I think it would be hard to separate the writer brain from the act. Like, I would just feel weird coming into something I had conceived. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, Devon Graye, you have been on Showtime with Dexter, FX with American Horror Story, Jordan Peele on the big screen for Nope, ABC Grey's Anatomy, Lincoln Lawyer, which is streaming now on Netflix. You can tune in to watch Julian. It's all about him this season. So Behind Bars. We got to get you now on NBC and CBS.
Yeah, have I done? I have done I've done all the CSIs on. I think they were CBS.
Okay, well check that one out the box then too. Okay, so
I don't know if I've ever done. Wait, I did do NBC. I did an NBC show called The Night Shift that was another hospital drama. I think. Yeah.
All the boxes for you. Okay, Apple TV Plus. How about that?
I don't think I've done that. No. So let's do that.
There you go. One more and you can retire. No, we don't.
Exactly.
We do not want you to retire. We want you to keep on going because you have such an amazing career in Hollywood and in Canada. And we love you and we can't wait to see what you do next. But for now, tune into The Lincoln Lawyer, streaming now on Netflix. Follow him as well on Instagram if you want us to give that out. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. But thank you so much for all your insight. You really inspired all of us today on The Working Actor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your questions were awesome.